just us three, so let's have class. Sit up straight. Make yourself settle on the floor. Oh. So I will spotlight myself and mute everybody. There. So continue this process of settling yourself and matching that settling stretch up. The arms and legs settle. The frame of the trunk, which includes the spinal central pillar, but also these pelvic bones, rib bones. This frame of the trunk goes up. Inside that frame, see that the breath in the chest is full. Inhalation and exhalation, not forced, but free. Especially across this diaphragm zone, or let's just say it's a matter of particular interest, is the ability of that muscle, the dome muscle of the diaphragm, to spread easily. If it cannot release, this rib cage framework can't lift, not without a disturbance. So once the framework is grounded and lifted, breathe and even out. Integrate, observe, connect the breath up and down. Join your palms. Use that joining to draw your attention back to this central location, that diaphragm. See that the breathing below it is free. The breathing above it is free. And with the attention drawn in, pay homage to this practice. Pay homage to that lineage of teachers who have brought this practice to us. all the way to that root teacher, Patanjali. Bow your head. And release your hands. Raise your head, open your eyes. Now, stretch your legs. Spread your feet. Okay. So first is Adho Mukha Virasana. Now be prepared to be in a sort of Virasana shape for a while. So you might get yourself a blanket in case you need some support, or two. But first pose, Adho Mukha Virasana, with the shins stretched long, thighs stretched long, buttocks, thighs resting. You fold forward. Now, I just want to point one thing out before you go. If you take this pose, reaching the arms maximally, like I'm doing, you will actually impede the opening of the spine completely, sort of missing the point of what the arms can do. Make sure that the shoulder blade is against these back ribs so that it can help open. If you see this, it can help open by that shoulder socket moving back, spine moving forward. Then, instead of just reaching the shoulder blade, reach the whole rib cage. So there's a little bit of back pressure with the hand to keep the shoulder blade against that back ribs. There is a downward pressure to lift that armpit so that the collarbones broaden and the spine drops in. Then when you stretch, the work is not independent of the spine. You could put that bolster and crosswise under the head and possibly get bricks under the wrists so that the shoulder blades have a way to come up. Ground the wrists, elevate the armpit, open that top chest. Lengthen the ribs forward. Yeah, an active stretch of the arms, not to just open the distance from hands to butt, but open the distance from collarbones to hips. Watch those middle ribs, that diaphragm section where the ribs are most free to move. Now you're going to come up to the hands and knees and take Adho Mukha Svanasana with a similar intent. So even here, that shoulder socket is back and shoulder blades are against the back ribs so that the throat is open. Roll the ribs up. And when you push the floor, you're pushing to open the top ribs. You're pushing to maintain that interaction between the shoulder blades and the top ribs. Push from the hands to the top chest. Raise the heels as high as necessary to not irritate the shoulder socket. It's about that rib cage, Now go to the middle place around that diaphragm, which is key to both the downward stretch from ribs to hips and the upward stretch toward the chest. Opening the ribs, stretch your legs, stretch your heels. Now, and this is fine, you stay. Everybody else come to Uttanasana. Walk your feet forward. Now you're in Ardha or half Uttanasana. And the purpose here is to maintain that extension of the trunk, right? When you're in full Uttanasana, the spine curves. Relatively speaking, the trunk shortens. So in Ardha Uttanasana, draw that shoulder socket back, shoulder blade down, so you feel broadness across the collarbone chest, sternum chest, and roll those side ribs forward. Lengthen through the neck and throat, and pull the legs back. The length comes from pubis to navel, navel to sternum, sternum to throat. Now, and you come forward to Ardha Uttanasana. And the rest of you hang down. Keep the trunk extending forward, thighs back. Everybody else, bend the elbows, hang the trunk down. Oh, Pratima, I see the ankle is bothering you. Is it a sprain?
Yeah, I've been playing tennis. I think it's just sprained.
So can you kneel in Vajrasana, Virasana, or is that a
I'm just a
problem?
little bit swollen on the inside, on one side.
So you should not be irritated. We'll talk about options. Okay, so come up then, everybody. Okay. So, well, in that case, what we need to do, what you need to do, Pratima, is Sutta Baddha Konasana. And if possible, you do it this way, lying flat, catching your ankles. So hopefully this is a safe thing to do. And you come up, walk your feet to each other, and then let them out to the sides in Baddha Konasana. And it is so compact, you should feel like you're almost sitting on your heels, buttocks in contact. And then you let go without spreading back out again. And take your arms overhead. Now, if the groins bother you, you bring in support, but maybe it won't bother you even if the knees float. Okay? The rest of us, please take Supta Virasana just briefly. And the idea is to open this front hip. So take some props like a bolster and a couple of blankets under those knees to match the height of your hips on this bolster. Now, those with more flexibility, and I don't mean just able to barely touch down, in, with big arch in the back. But if you have a good Supta Virasana and you can go long in the spine and front hips without this elevation, feel free. But don't be too seriously backbendy. Be where extension can come. Now, and if you're off the edge of that bolster, experiment with letting your head down so the throat opens. And I don't mean to the floor, but just that neck skull around that curve. And that for me is like the best feeling. Instead of sometimes elevating the head. Now, possible Pratima arms overhead, so you get that. And if the room is a bit smaller, cross your elbows and hold one arm to the opposite elbow, so that armpit chest can stretch. So is that okay? And the throat open version, yeah, I like that one too. So maximize the connectivity, as it were, to your breath, between the breath and the body. First, check that rib cage, that the basic function of the lungs and rib cage is happening. Then from there, you check the downward connectivity, inhalation and exhalation. It's present. That connectivity is present in both parts of the breath. Check the upward activity of both exhalation and inhalation. It's present, both parts of the breath. Keep the diaphragm spread, not just sensitive to its circumference, its periphery, but spread also at the very center of that dome. Spread from the center of the dome outward to the sides. Now, time to come up. Take your hands near the feet. Prepare yourself. Your breathing pattern is going to change in order to sit up. So be aware of it. Help yourself. Come out. Stretch your legs. So Dandasana, dog pose, anything, straighten those knees. Now, it's time for some Virasana, Gomukhasana. Make sure you have a strap. Leg and hip thing. So first thing is just kneel in Vajrasana, which is that pose which has your shins parallel, big toes touching. If possible, you keep every part of this lower leg touching. Now, if you're looking closely at my feet, you're going to see that my heels are turned toward each other and my little toes are lifted to get my inner heels touching. So if I separate those heels, I can get the little toes on the floor. Please do that. However, do you see this gap here? that has to figure out one of these days how to close without your heels rolling together. This is not easy, but you might get an approach. Okay, so even if you've got a blanket in between your buttocks and your heels, that is a muffler of sensory input. Your buttocks don't feel as well, but they do feel. Okay, fine. Now, let most of that relax, except stretch through the toes. Let the thigh relax. The weight of your body is kind of holding the position. So use those buttock bones, back thigh against your heels to ground and stretch up, and take your arms up out to the side, spread, bend your elbows, catch your fingers. Now I'm going to the side here. Well, first, the hands are over the head. Turn your palms up. With the palms up, hands over the head, move the armpit and the arm back, right? Armpit and arm back. Not so much elbows, but armpit. The elbow comes with. Let your head forward. This cancels some of the deeper spinal muscles, lets them relax, but you're still keeping the shoulder muscles open. Now push your palms straight up to the ceiling and pull your back ribs up. Sit your buttocks down. When the ribs come up, when this deep thoracic rib cage starts coming up, the head can come up. Stretch your elbows, Pratima. Stretch your elbows and come out. Bend your elbows, release. So if the elbow won't straighten, then you need to come up, turning your palms up and pushing a strap up, keeping, do you see how this is wrapped around my hands so I can pull it apart, pushing up to the ceiling, and those elbows straighten. So this is side 2. Ground, stretch up. Take the second interlock of the fingers. Turn your palms up. Those who need straps, take the strap. Shoulders socket back. Head forward. Let go of those spinal muscles. Grounding. Push up. Stretch your elbows. Lift your rib cage. Then from the deep thoracic, lift open and raise the head. So your arms wind up staying behind your ears. Come out. Adho Mukha Svanasana, just stretch your legs. Now beyond the hands and knees for a second. Don't go immediately into a deep shoulder stretch. Just sit there, arm bone in the socket. Then up you go. Stretch your legs. Go back to those middle ribs, the ones that you were actually working on in that previous pose. Taking your head forward, stretching your Parvatasana up to the ceiling. You're trying to dig the lift of the ribs right up from the bottom of the rib cage. Come out. Kneel again. Now, if you are feeling very bony in your shins and feet, like your sticky mat is not enough protection, a thing to do is open a blanket, just some padding, and then fold the sticky mat over it. Now you've got a padded but still sticky surface. So it protects. Now, Pratima, when you've sprained an ankle, much better to work like so. Here's 1, 2, maybe 3, and maybe 4, but you get the idea with 3. Here is the shin bone. This section is the ankle, and here's the foot. So you protect where the pain is not. Now I'm going to say you might need a support right under the hips, because it brings your buttocks off the edge of the platform. So you need to extend the support under the hips. And apart from this, you can sit in a chair, because things are going to get more complicated. All right. You stay that way, Pratima. The rest of us come up onto your hands and knees. Take your right leg behind your left, cross it to the left, and tuck it up behind the knee. So it looks like this. My right leg goes behind, crosses over, and comes up as close as possible behind this front thigh, coming right in against that back thigh. Shins parallel, feet pointing back. Now, there's some adhesion, some friction between this shin and the thighs again. So break that grip as you sit so you don't drag your flesh funny. Sit on those heels. Now, Pratima, this is not a great idea for you. This is why I say you stay on that blanket. This is an enormous ankle stretch. So be protective. Take your arms, come out, change sides. Back to the knees. So then the left leg crosses behind and tucks up as close as possible, shins together. And you've got that meeting between the outer top calf and the outer bottom thigh. And you've got to get that loose as you sit. These hands are good for balance until these groins soften. Attempt to balance. The act involves stretching through your toes, your feet. And from there, reflect back to the groins and sit. Come out. Now, go back to the first side. Same rules. and you've had an experience. So now take just a thinness of blanket and put it between the heels and the buttocks. And thinness means just basically make contact and stretch your toes and sit up. Now, sorry, before you get settled, a strap might be in order. This is Gomukhasana. So with the arms down, the knee that's up is typically the arm that's up. So the down knee arm goes behind. Let the shoulder release. Let this trapezius release. Let the chest relax as that arm goes behind you and then comes up. Now it might catch that strap, both parts, or it might just reach up between the shoulder blades. Stretch your feet, sit on that blanket, open that middle rib cage. The armpit goes back and up. Bend your elbow. Middle ribs lifting. When you catch the strap with the fingers, go back to sitting, breathing in the rib cage, settle down. Lift using the arms to open the ribs up. And out you come. And come forward. Uncross the legs, keep your toes stretching. So if you want an extra movement in there, turn your toes under and work actively like this. Okay. Side two. So when there's a whole lot of trouble crossing chaya, right? There's letting this go, or there is sitting considerably higher, much, much higher. The idea is to let the thigh stay relaxed and the hips stay open. Let this the shins stay parallel. So you keep the leg at, see, I like that better than sitting lower. Yeah. Because this is like another pose, a separate thing that's happening. All right, so you ready? The one that I to change sides. So the one that's up, the knee that's up is the arm that is up. Knee that's down is the arm that is down, with or without a strap. Stretch your toes, release the groins, lengthen up that spine. Spread across this shoulder. Catch the strap, other arm up. Watch this middle zone and how it's interacting with the arm going down, as well as the arm going up. Stretch your toes. Deepen the groins. And release, come out. And come forward. Stretch both legs. Set your shoulders, knees, hips, joints for Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then take Adho Mukha Svanasana. Okay. Let's have a respite from Virasana shapes. Just temporary. Fold a blanket or two and sit in a swastikasana. Now, when sitting here, look, here's your two blankets. Turn the pointy edge to be the edge you're seated on. So here's your two butt bones here, right? And you sit. Okay. So cross the right leg first. This is my right leg first. Your right leg first, your left leg second. And sit up. Okay. But wait. Come up with those knees and pull your right foot in right up close to this outer thigh. Pull your, cross the left over the top and pull it over to the outer opposite hip. So you're in swastikasana. First you range your right foot, then left knee crosses over, left hand pushes the left knee on top of the right knee. Now, a thing that's possible is to sit on some more height. Press your feet against that floor. Spread your toes, right? It's not a dull, floppy foot. Make it an active foot. Active like Virasana. There is a reflection back to the groin. Come out, change sides. Help that leg out, stretch your legs straight. Pile up more blankets. Look, if it is quite difficult to see this as, anything other than Marichyasana, then sit higher. Right, so that this, leg has a chance to just naturally settle a bit lower. Try side two. First, it is swastikasana, just getting the settling, right? Then the left foot comes in first. Right foot crosses over. So the right hand pushes the right knee. Left hand pushes the left knee. So if you push like this, sometimes the hips relax, the groins open. And for your last act, you try to seriously tuck this flyaway foot in. Activate those feet, stretching out through those shins, ankles, toes. Reflect back in, release the groins, stretch up. Just for kicks, take your arms up. Padanguliasana, turn your palms up. Take the armpits back, head forward, so that spinal muscles become quiet. Do not deactivate the feet. Do not activate the groins. Lift your trunk, stretch your elbows, raise the head. Good. Come out. That was good. That was just a check. Stretch your legs. Now we're going back and we're going to take Gomukhasana again in this variation, and we're going to add a variation. So have a look, whatever height you're using, you take that height. And having experienced what you have just experienced, you might choose to alter that height. So modify accordingly. All right, I'm doing it correctly in my body geography. My right leg bends, crosses over to foot to the outer hip. Left leg crosses over, releases, and I push and I go. So the up leg is the down arm. Down hip is the up arm this time around. Use your strap. So just watch. Here's the variation. Stretch through those toes, ground through the hips, turn toward the lifted leg. It's not going to be much. And then back and turn away from it. Not going to be much. Then go forward. If you're lifted too high, you'll feel overbalanced. Don't overbalance. Be compact. Keep that armpit stretching. Okay. So some of you went with me and some of you are waiting to go. So repeat this, everybody. Go toward your top leg first. Stretch that elbow up, Chaya. Armpit open. Turn those ribs. Then come back, stretching up mildly. Turn the other way. Keep the buttock grounded, feet awake, groin soft. Come to the middle. Now keep your buttocks grounded and the armpit open. If the one shoulder, the other bothers you, loosen the grip so the elbow can go wide and the chest can open, and you come down. Do not irritate the shoulder. Also, don't drop your top elbow to the floor. Reach forward. Now come up. Release your hands. And then the legs. And stretch. And change sides. So second leg, your left leg comes in to the outer right hip. Now, I hadn't thought of this, but it can be quite helpful. In this top leg crossover, instead of lifting it up sort of in what's obviously the wrong direction and then fixing it, see if you can leave it as loose and externally rotated as possible as you cross it over. So you're sort of carrying it through a Padmasana style setup. Okay, so activate those feet. Release back into the groins. When these feet press the floor, it gives you some space and lift. pelvically. So this time, up leg is down arm, with or without a strap. So up leg, down arm goes first. Catch your strap. Open that chest. Respect the shoulders. So you need to be able to open that chest. And if the shoulder is tight, it's going to bind the chest. So let the elbow go wide. Let what needs to happen, happen. Get the armpit back. Catch that strap wherever it is to be caught. Stretch up tall. Wake up those feet again. Quiet the groins again. And turn toward the lifted, the high leg. Lift those ribs. Keep your chest open. Don't turn your head. Turn the ribs. Come forward. Reset that vertical and go the other way. Small twist. You're just observing the interactions. Don't lead with your head. And come forward. Keep the elbows lifted, chest broad, go forward. The head finally curls, if you get this far, over the front of your knee, but that elbow doesn't drop. Inhale, come up, active from those feet. Stretch your arms, come out, and stretch your legs. Okay, Adho Mukha Svanasana, of course. And then you will either do Shirshasana or something that will prepare you for it in time. So, and anybody who wants to can do their headstand with support if you have a device of some sort. So set yourself up first with a dog pose. And keep those arms extending, as we've spoken of in weeks past. Those arms extend away from the spine and away from the skull. So even the arms push overhead like they are now, they're not bunching up toward the skull. That movement goes away. Keep the base of the skull open. Now, rest, and then put yourself in your version of a headstand or preparation for it. So that could include this work with a brick and keeping your upper arms vertical, not pushing them back, shoulders back. You take an inversion. Now, the other way to work on this is Prasarita Padottanasana. which is just a lovely inversion shape. It's the end of the month. It's been quite a month. So the work we're doing today is to just open up that rib cage, abdomen, shoulder girdle, so that the first part of easy breathing, the first of the pranas that function in the body, functions well. So see in Shirshasana that this middle space from where the diaphragm joins the rib cage and that whole membrane, this middle section between the pelvis, between the chest, middle section of the trunk, has to be open for the other pranas, the ones that go down, the ones that go up, the ones that go in all directions. That inward absorbing prana is actually lives here, right in the middle of you. So this zone has to function well. See to it, if the ribs shift forward, that lower section of the rib cage, middle body, the most mobile part of you gets limited. Stretch your legs so that the organs don't feel like they're piling on each other. Okay, come out carefully. Watch the breathing pattern in that middle body as you come out. And rest your head. Okay, so let's see, you need a chair. You need a big pile of something underneath your head end of this chair. Here's my chair. Here's a bolster. Here's a blanket as a little extra lift. And here's a second bolster. So what that's done is it's set up basically so this chair has a connection to the slope where my head and shoulders are going to go. And you could add a blanket or not. So just as a word of advice here, don't set these bolsters up like this and expect them to stay put. They won't stay put. You need this T-square kind of shape. So it's braced. Now, what goes at the other end has to do with your flexibility, your height, this and that. So look, this is just a bolster, but it kind of doesn't matter. You could also leave your knees bent. If you don't have just like this wealth of props, pile up something. And I forgot to say, of course, a little sticky nap pad. So look, I'm doing a chest opening back bend that has my neck supported. Watch how this goes. I'm spotlighted, so I hope you do get a good view. This might, do you see this? This might be able to move a bit backwards as needed, okay? So I go through and I get that lower shoulder blade on the edge of the chair. And then I just coil off. And you see, oh, it's quite comfy. I wait a bit. I'm letting the pectoral muscle open from the chest to the shoulder out to the arms. So the pectoral muscle is attached all down the borders of the sternum, and it's also attached underneath a little bit this bra line here, basically. And it angles out to the shoulder. So at a certain point, this is going to come out. Not a lot, but your arms go through and catch the back chair legs. So you keep the throat open, but also the chest. So there are certainly ways of adjusting this so that you can coil farther over the chair. If the head support is too pushy, then when the chest wants to open more, it kind of can't. You run into a bolster or something. So if it's set up right in that slidey way, it'll work. Now you may stretch your legs or keep your legs straight, but adjust your chest first. Can the arms go between the front chair legs and catch the back chair legs? So Pratima, you have to, do you feel your forearms are hitting the outer chair legs? Go in between, there you go. Now the shoulders can roll. Drop your chin. Drop your chin. And are your shoulders touching the bolster? Good. Roll that chest so they get closer. So you just start and proceed the same way as usual. Start with the lungs, especially the supramobile part at the base. See the diaphragm work. See that mobility is available up and down the rib cage. So first prana zone has to function. Diaphragm needs to function freely. From there, you can feel the downward influence. And if your legs can straighten comfortably in this pose, you can feel the influence of the legs on that pelvic breath and all the way up through the diaphragm into the chest. If the diaphragm's open, the effect is available. Now, the work through the arms can do various things. Stretching back to the back chair legs is pretty muscular, but it can use those shoulder blades to expand the top chest outward toward the armpits. Now, if you remove the arms from between the front chair legs and let them sideways, obliquely, sort of overhead, so you find that pectoral muscle expression. Okay. Don't let it be in this shoulder socket. Let the arms come out and sort of 45-degree angle from the sternum out. Again, the neck and head are supported, spine is supported in such a way that you can kind of feel the independence of the arms from the spine. And then, of course, you can take the arms straight parallel to the ears, like Urdhva Hastasana. Urdhva Dhanurasana is what it is when you're upside down. Either straight arms or crossed elbows, but the upper arm is open. The armpit is open. Now, if this part goes wrong, the throat region gets stuffy. So keep the armpits back, collarbones broad. The action of the arms goes initially away from the spine, away from the skull. Legs away from the spine, away from the skull. Now, come out. There are two ways. You could just slither toward your head if your props are piled up right, or you could sit up. Sit up straight. Find your lungs and diaphragm. And then the downward, upward pranas. Then come out of the chair. And you want to, if you're stiff, keep that chair handy. Not so stiff, keep a bolster. And have a seat on the floor or on a blanket in Upavishta Konasana. Too many bolsters. Look, everybody, I built myself a halasana box according to the specifications from the Institute in Pune. I'm very pleased with myself. So you might need a strap, and you might need a bolster or a chair as a support if you're stiff in forward bends. So you sit and you stretch. Okay. So ground your thighs, stretch your legs. And Can you turn to the right? And let me just say, those who are flexible, the closer you can sit to the floor, the better. So if you need to sit high for flexibility reasons, keep it as low as possible. Turn to the right. Stretch your legs. Put a little bit of resistance, outward resistance on the leg so it makes that outer thigh wake up in the hip, like there's a strap around your ankles and you're mildly pressing outward against it. The point being to wake up that hip. Now relax the abdomen, turn to the right, brace with the right hand, and crawl the left hand out to catch your foot. And if you have an animal to help you, take the animal, take the help. Come out, change sides, turn to the left, keep that mild resistance in the leg. Oh, see, Anne's got the same thing. And brace with the left hand. And out you go with the right hand crawling toward the foot. Keep resistance in the hip sockets. Man, those dogs are big, and that's so great. Big dogs. And come out. Now, we're going to take the whole pose. I'm going to go this way so there's no obstruction to the view. You're going to take first one hand here, props, as before. Then you're going to, that stretches one side. When you take with two hands, you get the opportunity to stretch the other side. And when you go forward, keep the elbows lifted, keep the armpits. It's not about the elbow, it's about the armpit lifted so that that spine can settle in and forward, chest open. With the bolster, with the pillow, go. Side one. Catch with the opposite hand first. And you feel the one-sided stretch. Catch with two hands. Make that stretch equal, both legs, both arms, both sides of the prana vayu, and then exhaling, you go forward, elbows up, not for the elbows, but for the shoulders, for the top chest. Come up and change sides. Parshva Upavishta Konasana. Keep that mild resistance on the outer leg. It's on the leg. It's not in the belly. Don't be pushing from the abdomen. Keep the leg to itself. And you turn, and first one side stretches, then both sides stretch, and then you go forward, making the trunk broad as you go in. So you're pulling a little bit on that foot that helps keep the shoulders open, lifted. Do this lift from the shoulder blade and you won't get so tired in the arm. Come up. Okay. So for your last pose, we got 5 minutes. You can set yourself up in a supported shoulder stand or a setu bandha, but you need that throat quiet, chest lifted. So put it on a chair if it's going to be a shoulder stand. Otherwise, 2 bricks, one under the feet, one under the chest. Don't leave your knees bent. Say, brick under the feet. You could put 2 bricks under your feet if the feet have trouble staying together. You just use 3 bricks, 1 under each foot and 1 under the sacrum. And that brick could go longwise to your spine or crosswise. This is according to your comfort. If there is irritation, you need to account for it. I'm watching now. Now see that bolster in is brought under the skull. Yeah. And I know the chair is a little far from the wall, but generally extend through the heel. I know that's a nuisance on the cats on the chair. And that would be true for everybody, including the setu bandha people. Yeah, that actually, and that gives you more chest lift. So the animals know what time it is. Hello, animals. Okay, now we have technically a minute of class left. So you can come out. Hi, Jeff. So this is just a general practice when under stress. Go back to watching and cultivating an even pattern of breathing, starting with the prana region, rib cage, diaphragm. The ability to open across the diaphragm, to widen the rib cage, is neurophysiologically associated with a parasympathetic relaxation response. So being able to cultivate this response in the body is helpful. So this is not a reference to any particular pranayama. That's kind of up to you. But to be able to practice that pranayama, you need this first doorway to be open and stable. Bring yourselves back. It's 5:17. Okay. Time to say namaskar.